and welcome to Pacifica Performance Showcase. I'm your host, Donna Walker, and this is a show that highlights original works, classic performances, and interviews by diverse artists on topics that hopefully you can relate to and be entertained and moved by. Plays, sketches, spoken word pieces that will enlighten, enliven, and educate. And today, at first as I was thinking about this, I thought this is a bit of a departure for us, and then I thought, no, it really isn't. It encompasses all the aspects of the show, the theatrical, the film, all sorts of fascinating attributes are wrapped up in my guest today. And we are joined in studio by Tiana Alexandra Silliphant. Welcome,
Hi.
Tiana.
Thank you.
I'm a bit at a loss as to how to introduce you because you are a filmmaker, you're an actress, you're humanitarian, a documentarian. You lead a fascinating life with many, many fascinating people in it, not the least of which was your late husband, Stirling Silliphant, a well-known screenwriter of Route 66 and In the Heat of the Night, and wrote for just about everything back in the day. And your current collaborations with people like Christopher Hampton, and you're very involved in many, many, many things. What first caught my interest was a documentary that you did called From Hollywood to Hanoi, which was brought to me by Douglas Thompson here, who works with us here at KPFK on Yatrika Shah Rais's show. And he said, I know this fascinating woman. You really should do a show on her. And as I looked at the documentary, I was just riveted. It's moving. It's informative. It's a revelation. And it starts off with a quote, which I want to ask you about. I am neither a communist nor a nationalist. I am Vietnamese. Is it not enough? For thousands of years, that's what I've been. Is it not enough? Don't you think that's enough? Who am I? And it's attributed to True View. Tell me about this quote and why you chose to open your film with it.
Well, we actually added this quote to the film, which was titled From Hollywood to Hanoi, because some of the Vietnamese community, in watching this film, some of them refused to come see it because they heard that there were members of the North Vietnamese heroes. For example, I interviewed General Vo Nguyen Giap. This is the man who beat the French and the Americans. He started with an army of 40 guns given to him by the office of the OSS, the forerunner to the CIA. So, in fact, American taxpayers' money paid for the beginning of this revolutionary band of, ragamuffin. 40 professors went off to fight the French. The roots of conflict in Vietnam, as I came to learn as a child, I didn't know all of this, was that the Vietnamese had a nationalist movement and they wanted to get rid of French colonialism. They had reduced many Vietnamese villages and hamlets to slavery. That Michelin tires, we all buy tires. The company Michelin Tires was built on the blood of the Vietnamese people. It was rubber, tungsten, tea, and tungsten, the days of colonialism. And so through, the whole thing of history, you have all the bodies. You have Robert McNamara, the architect of the war, whom I met and had a run-in with.
Yes, and we're going to play that clip a little later on in the show, too.
Very interesting.
I just want to back up a little bit and fill our audience in on your background. You were from a very prominent family in Vietnam. In fact, your father was basically the head of the press for the South Vietnamese government.
Yes. So a lot of Morley Safer came to our house. He stamped in Peter Jennings. They were all young. They were there to explore and find out what was going on. And when they were in Vietnam, people back home didn't even know where Vietnam was.
That's right.
So all these knee-jerk names, Walter Cronkite, John F. Kennedy, people who went to Vietnam, was hosted by my father.
And you came to this country. Your family left Vietnam in 1966, I believe, when you were only about 5.
Yes.
And then through a series of circumstances, which we'll elaborate on later, you went back to find your roots, your identity, your relatives. One of the big themes throughout this film, which was so touching to me, is your interviews with the Amerasian kids
Yes.
and young adults.
And they have kids of their own.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
it's gone that far. Actually, next year, April 30th, will be the 35th anniversary of the fall of Saigon. If any of us remember, watching TV, April 30th, 1975, it was the big gash of shame, the first war America lost. Our soldiers were running and pushing people off of helicopters because the Vietnamese, the South Vietnamese who collaborated with us were left, to the mercy of the NVA, the communists, the North Vietnamese. So I had to go back to find out do we say we live in LA? Are we Southern Americans? People live, my friends in New York or Montana, are they Northern Americans? And why is there this DMZ line? Who put this line down? Who caused the war? So I looked into that quite a bit. And I know your viewers, a lot of your viewers have done a lot of reading. And through experience, 3 million American young boys at the age of 18 went through Vietnam to fight. And so there are a lot of relatives. A lot of us are cousins, nieces, widows, sons and daughters of, and they have the right to know the truth.
And your uncle, there's a part in the film where you find your uncle who's just been released from a prison camp.
Right, but I found him in the 80s. And when I went back to Vietnam in the 80s, it was like Oz. You're looking for the wizard. You don't know. Well, we were told that, Ho Chi Minh would have me for breakfast. They chop me up into pieces. In other words, we were still fighting the war after the war ended in America because there was no official surrender. When the French left Vietnam in 1954, when Ho Chi Minh's troops kicked out the French, there was an official surrender. They actually took Vietnamese French kids back to France, and educated them. So if you look in phone books in France, you'll see the Vietnamese names Nguyen and Tang and, all the typical Vietnamese names. They're doctors, lawyers, and they're in government. But in the U.S., for the longest time, for the last 35 years, it was a big, big struggle for us. Many came as boat people. Many do your nails. Ask the next time we go in to get our nails done, which was never affordable, by the way, before 1975. It used to be you had to spend like, $75 for a pedicure, $30 for a manicure minimum in the 60s and 70s. It was for wealthy housewives. But now we can go in and get a manicure, pedicure for like $12 each. So ask the young girls who are doing your nails, what was it like? Their parents escaped on boats with the clothes on their back to come to enjoy freedom.
And I think, it's very revealing in the film when you are talking to these young adults. You start off the film basically asking some young American Vietnamese, what are you? Are you Vietnamese? Are you American? And
who are you?
Who are you? Yeah, exactly.
They used to ask me, "What are you?" And
what
I was
are you?
so mortified as a child.
That's right.
What are you? Are you
That's
Vietnamese?
Right.
Are your people killing our boys? I had a really rough time in Virginia. They call me Gook, Ching Ching, Chinese cherry, Ching Chong, Ching Chong, and I just wanted to be American. As a child, you want to be accepted. You don't want to be made fun of. But think about this: these kids and their parents were watching the 6 o'clock news, in the 60s and 70s, and there was all this death and destruction. See, now with Iraq, that's all been blocked out. Vietnam War, the one thing it did was it caused the U.S. government to know how to control the information through the media. But we don't see body bags coming back from Iraq. But we did see that during the Vietnam days. And kids were mortified. They were afraid to talk to me. They thought I was like, I don't know, maybe I was one of them and I was going to, eat them for breakfast.
Right.
But so I took up martial arts instead.
Right. Well, and we're going to get to that shortly. Your film actually does open with a rather cheesy clip of you doing the karate thing and talking about how basically this was kind of what your life was and you were seeking something a little more meaningful in regard to your roots and your identity. So I want to play a little bit of a a music clip called Americanized, which is kind of a rap. Tell me a little bit about that before we go into it.
I recorded a song called Americanized years ago. I did a rock version of it. I was managed by Bill Wyman of the Rolling Stones, and I was signed to Warner Music France, and recording in Italy in French. French is my first language. The French were in my country for over 100 years. So we were recording in French songs, and they said, we want American lyrics. Give us some American lyrics. So I came up with this song, Americanized, Go Get Americanized. And we recorded it as a rap song last year. And MC Hammer heard it. I was on the plane with him last month, and he heard it, and he said, you got to do the music video. You got to shoot it.
So let's play a little bit of that.
Okay.
Then we'll come back, and then we're going to play a little clip from the DVD so people get a little taste of the film.
Well, to set this up, it's a two-generation song. I am the Vietnamese, like the mother that walked before you, and then the young boy who just got back from Iraq, sang by Cornbread in the Bay Area. So it's a two-generation of how we see Vietnam, Iraq.
Great. Okay.
We are in Hanoi. I am Vietnamese. We were the ones hidden, the fog, in the fog of war. He's Robert McNamara, the architect of the Vietnam.
Ôi trời ơi!
2, oh yeah, 4, 2, 3, 4, 2, oh yeah, 4.
Hey GI, điểm cái đầu. Hey GI, điểm cái đầu. Hey GI, điểm cái đầu.
2, oh yeah, 4, 2.
I'm the new American, latest mutation. Had to go somewhere since you bombed my nation. Let's get real, this whole thing insane. Didn't your peeps come here in chains? Hey GI, điểm cái đầu. Hey GI, điểm cái đầu. You call me goop, you call me slang.
Well, there you go. That about says it all.
You got to get to the hook. Go get Americanized. Are you feeling victimized, being traumatized? You will be satisfied when you become Americanized.
Okay, so there we go. There we go. A little live retrospect there. I think, are we ready, D'Angelo? Can we play a little bit of that DVD? Okay.
Time when our country would be at peace. My favorite subject was history. We were a people whose karma had brought us 2,000 years of warfare, a 1,000-year war with the Chinese, 100 years of French colonialism, and Japanese occupation. When we should have been learning our ABCs, we learned DMZ, the demilitarized zone which divided our country into North and South. Whenever I didn't eat my vegetables, Dad said I would be sent to Hanoi, where Ho Chi Minh would tear me from limb to limb and keep me from ever coming home.
So it's very interesting in the film, too, once you do get back to North Vietnam and you cross that bridge, the very famous bridge, and you get opinions about Ho Chi Minh, everything. You were told as a child that if you didn't eat your vegetables, you were going to be, rawr, Ho Chi Minh. And then you go into the north where the reverence is almost godlike for Ho Chi Minh. And
they consider him the father of the nation. Actually, Ho Chi Minh was a pastry chef in Boston and washed dishes in Boston. So if you take the tour, the tourist bus in Boston, which I did, they point out where Malcolm X and Ho Chi Minh washed dishes and, gathered people together in meetings to talk about what Ho Chi Minh was trying to get people to do was to realize the slavery that was going on in Vietnam, and he brought home the Bill of Rights. And the Bill of Rights of Vietnam today is a copy of the American Bill of Rights.
This film was executive produced by Oliver Stone.
Yes, Oliver loved it. He went all out to support us. He and I formed a nonprofit foundation, a 501c3 together. At the time, children were dying from lack of antibiotics. In the early 90s in Vietnam, it was the fifth poorest nation on earth. And if you consider the African nations, for Vietnam, which has a literacy of 86%, to be the poorest nation, Foundation, we had a trade embargo against them, and what I found was it wasn't punishing the government, which is, I presume, our intention. It was killing babies. So Richard Walden, Operation USA, based right here in L.A., and several other nonprofit groups, and our small independent nonprofit foundation, just co-founded by myself and Oliver Stone, we went to do what we could to help. We brought sutures, we brought antibiotics. Children were dying in the 90s in Vietnam for a lack of antibiotics.
And that's called the
Indochina Film Arts Foundation. Yes, and now we take celebrities to Vietnam. Actually, your listeners, everyone's a celebrity in my book. But anyone who wants to go, please just contact. It's Indochina Film Arts Foundation, and the website is altourism, altourism.org. You'll see a film called Dream Journey with Oscar winner Christopher Hampton, and a raffle to go to Vietnam. So James Gandolfini is in it. He's starring in God of Carnage in New York. That's one of Christopher's hits right now. And so we have wonderful donors, who have been to Vietnam. Christopher did The Quiet American, if you've seen that film with Brendan Fraser and Michael Caine. Michael Caine got an Oscar nomination. This was the first American film shot in Vietnam post-war, and we were all there on location. So check out The Quiet American. Go see Gandolfini and God of Carnage. It's a Broadway play. Marcia Gay Harden wants to go with us. She begged me, please have some room for her in February. She has small children, so she can't go in December. But a lot of people, the weather is fantastic to go. November, December, January is a great time to go to Vietnam. And it's packed. It's jumping and happening.
I was going to say, this is really opening a gateway to try and get that bridge back that was
no
destroyed.
Longer the fifth poorest nation
right.
on earth. You know what? 50% of the children that I found in my film, 50% of the kids were born after the war. They don't know about the war. They just want a new iPhone, and they work hard 7 days a week. You might have heard about the Nike controversy. I went and interviewed them about that. There was a big controversy that Nike was underpaying and not allowing them to go to the bathroom. There was a whole inquest into that. And I interviewed these young people who were making $300, working 30 days a month, and they were happy to have the job. They didn't want anyone, doing anything. They didn't want my camera to upset, their chances to work. So $300 skilled labor to work 30 days a month. At least give them some good bathroom, breaks. They had some bosses from Korea who were very strict and didn't give them breaks, and it was all over on the internet. But the great thing is the internet can help us with all of that when people are being oppressed, when people are being abused and used. Because poor people, they need to work. They're so grateful. A young kid making $300 a month can support his entire family.
When you first went back, and in the film you're talking with your auntie, I believe, and she's talking about please tell them how hard it is, and is talking about the cost of everything. And
yes.
You see, there's a sense, and then as you travel northward, there's a sense of people saying, we just want to move on. We just want to, the war happened, we want to move on. How have things changed in your travels between when you first did this film to where you are now? You've talked about it a little bit, but do you find in this period of time a tremendous difference?
A lot has changed, but the one thing that is constant, that we were shocked, Vietnam vets from Oliver Stone to John Kerry to, Senator McCain, we were all shocked, and I've accompanied some congressmen and senators to Vietnam several times. We did the bicycle race from Hanoi to Ho Chi Minh City of disabled vets from both sides, and everyone breaks down and weep. Americans break down and weep for the forgiving nature in gratefulness to the amazing welcome from the people of Vietnam to Americans. They say you came a long distance and you came without guns. You must care. It must have cost you a lot of money. They say to Oliver Stone, this must have cost you a lot of money. They see our cameras. That represents a year's pay to them. So they said, you care enough to come to take pictures of us. I mean, they're still in dire poverty outside in the countryside, like, most poor countries. The cities are doing fantastic. Yes, Vietnamese Americans are coming back from all over the world. The French, the Italians, the Australians are doing very, very well, living quite well in Ho Chi Minh City. It's a great expat community. It's decadent, in fact. Sometimes you wonder, would Ho Chi Minh turn in his grave? It's like Shanghai,
Well, now you're going back shortly to do a couple of performances, right?
I was due back this weekend, but I'm extending my trip. I'm still in LA for 2 weeks to work with Douglas to bring more clips, because I've been asked to perform at Hanoi Cinematheque, run by an American. Jerry Herman has the only art film theater house in Southeast Asia in Hanoi, and all the guests come in, but the ambassadors from all the countries, because Hanoi is like the Washington, D.C. So, the culture, the arts, the poetry, the paintings. I mean, it is a place for poets and artists. And so he has a very successful Hanoi Cinematheque, and he's asked me to come show my films, my latest films, perform, and I'm going to play different characters. Bruce Lee, my father.
I was going to say, can you give us a little sample, maybe a little tease
my
something
my friendship with Bruce Lee was so special. I owe him and his family so much. Bruce Lee's best friend was Stirling Silliphant, and his staunch supporter. My late husband believed in Bruce Lee when no one else did. When Warner Brothers literally ripped Bruce Lee off with that TV show called Kung Fu, Bruce Lee brought to them a story about the book, and they renamed it Kung Fu. They said to Bruce's face, they said, American audiences won't want a Chinaman in their living room. And so they hired Kung Fu, hiked up his eyes, and just on the safe side, had the show only air once a month, just in case there were ramifications. Well, the public went ballistic. They wanted more, so the show quickly became a weekly show. Bruce Lee was devastated. He was so angry. Now, here's a Zen master, a Sufi teacher, and the most incredible martial artist who ever who came between East and West and taught me. Bruce was a quarter German, very, very interesting. But he taught me so much, and he loved Stirling, who wrote for him. Stirling wrote for him he wrote a TV series for Bruce Lee called Longstreet. Look it up. And the pilot episode was called The Way of the Intercepting Fist. Bruce Lee said to me, you have to come to Hollywood and you must meet Stirling Silliphant. And I thought, what? And he said, you must meet my writer, Stirling Silliphant. You need Oscar winner writer in your corner. And you want to be actress. I will help you. You know competition. I will help you. I thought he meant that I knew, that I was aware of competition. He meant that I was a girl. You're just a girl. You're no competition. I will help you. So he passed on his Oscar-winning writer who was writing for him to me. And Stirling Silliphant went on to write me roles, a Japanese girl in Pearl Harbor, a Vietnamese girl in the story of the Tet Offensive called Fly Away Home. So I got to star I was in a film with Rod Steiger.
I was going to say, can we maybe cue up that clip from that movie? I know
I've done it all. The Media Brat.
Yes, exactly. We're going to play just in a moment. We're going to play a little snippet from that clip. But suffice it to say, your life with Stirling Silliphant was very rich for the 20 years that you were together, and then he passed cancer.
The people who came to our home, Quincy Jones would stop by, Clint Eastwood. We had an office at Warner Brothers, turned out to be Lucille Ball's dressing room. It was quite the thing to get was a dressing room, which in those days was so huge. It was like a 2-story, office. So yes, I mean, it was amazing. Alex Haley offered roots for Stirling to write when it was just in a box. So those were the days. It was just amazing. And our wedding was on the 6 o'clock news. And I miss him so much. He loved the oppressed people. He loved the Asians. He loved the blacks. He got the Shaft films made. He said to MGM, give me $1 million. We'll go off to Harlem. We're going to hire all black crew, all black cast. Leave us alone, and we'll come back with a movie that will make you guys so much money. And the rest is history. And Isaac Hayes is gone. He did the music, a generation has passed. So it's time to look at what our young kids are interested in and what it is they want. And I think Bruce Lee is forever the hero of all young troubled kids.
And Stirling actually was the one, I think, who encouraged you to go back to Vietnam in the first place, right?
Stirling Silliphant said, you cannot turn your back on your roots, on your heritage. It was just absolutely amazing. I was on the Today Show talking about that. And when you go back, whether it's you go to Africa, President Obama went to Africa, whether you go to the South Pacific, Hawaii, France, Germany, wherever it is that you come from, I went back to Saigon, which is now renamed Ho Chi Minh City, thanks to American, war policies. I was so touched and so moved. The Vietnamese people who had no money would cook their last bowl of rice with stones. I almost cracked my tooth, and I thought, why are they stones in the rice? Because they're so poor, they eat the lowest quality of rice. But they would share that with you. I took off one earring. I used to wear these little pearl studs. I took off a pair of earrings because I didn't have any money to give them. I had a $100 bill, but they didn't know how to change it. So I said, please take these pearl earrings, buy your mother some medicine, whatever I could offer. And the woman gave it back to me. She only accepted one. She said, no, I'm never going to sell this. This will ensure that we are friends, and you will come back and you will wear your earrings. And when you come back, we could wear it together. I heard this all throughout Vietnam. What got me to come back with a film crew was that this woman in Vinh, the hometown of Ho Chi Minh, where Vinh was heavily bombarded by U.S. command because it was Ho Chi Minh's hometown, and they figured there'd be a lot of, revolutionaries hanging about there. When we were stuck there in the mud, our tires stuck in the mud with 6 American vets traveling throughout Vietnam, they were so scared they thought, Tiana, we're going to have to stay here overnight, and this is Vinh, and they hate us here, and that must be a prison, and, what's going to happen to us. The woman who helped us turned out to be the mayor. She was like in her 30s. All Asians look so young. Maybe she was in her 40s, but she looked so young and so kind. And I said, how you've been so kind to us. She put us up. I said, how can we repay you? And she said, bring us materials to build a bridge. And I thought, oh no, I'm not U.S. Steel. I can bring some batteries. And she broke into a sonnet, and she said, we will build this bridge with the steel you bring. We will cross it together. What bridge do you have? I saw a bridge in San Francisco. Oh, the Golden Gate Bridge. Let's build a bridge from Vinh to the Golden Gate, and we will share it together, and our children will share a new language. We all wept. I translated to the vets, who said, but I thought they would hate us. And she said, welcome, welcome. We're so glad you came back. And it was a feast that night. They couldn't afford it, but we just said, you know what, we're coming back, and we're going to help them. We're going to help them rebuild. And that's my run-in with Robert McNamara. I said, are we going to help them? Agent Orange. If we could help both sides. Agent Orange is linked to cancer, breast cancer, if we could do the research, but go to Vietnam and find the healing. There are Americans who still cannot heal. The man, the My Lai massacre, he just apologized.
Right.
William Calley just spoke for the first time about the My Lai massacre and apologized for what he had done just this week. Now he can sleep better. We've got to lance this wound. We've got to get it out for our fathers' sakes, our uncles, our grandfathers.
Well, and I think when you come back from Vietnam in the film, when you're meeting up with your family, and the definite sort of paradox between those who want to go back and don't want to go back. Your grandmother says you go out and you come back with a basket full of courage, wisdom, and heart. And I think there's somewhere in the film a reference to that, forgiveness really provides creative solutions to a lot of things if you have that willingness to open up and forgive.
The only hope is love, and the Vietnamese gave me a lot of love, and they gave it to Vietnam vets who've been going back since the 70s. I learned a lot from the Vietnam vets. And of course, in Vietnam, they're Vietnam vets. They call it the American War. We call it the Vietnam War.
And it's interesting too in the film, because you had seen things in your life. I mean, the Buddhist monks in self-immolation and in protest.
I've seen a lot.
And there's a point in the film where William Westmoreland, there's a clip from Hearts and Minds where he's saying, how cheap life is to the Oriental, not like us. And of course, everything in the film belies that fact, and everything that you've been talking about, of course, it's ironic.
They would have fought every man, woman, and child to save their land. Wouldn't we, if our land was at stake like that? So it was just a terrible, terrible misunderstanding. But you don't go bomb somewhere halfway across the world because of a cultural misunderstanding.
Well, and interesting, too, to see the farmers making basically fisheries out of the craters where the bombs have
That's
left.
Right. They raise fish in the bomb craters. They will turn a positive, make it positive, give it light. It's agape. It's a lot of love.
Yeah.
And we learn from that. Everyone who's been to Vietnam has raved about it. It's a win-win situation to go.
I want to play a little clip of the encounter that you had with Robert McNamara, if we're ready with that, D'Angelo. Let's just listen for a moment.
We are in Hanoi. I am Vietnamese. We were the ones hidden, the fog, in the fog of war. He's Robert McNamara, the architect of the Vietnam War. He does not want to talk to me.
McNamara, what are you to learn? What can you teach us? I listened and I learned that if you make a mistake, you can go and bomb someone halfway across the world. Because you made a mistake.
Where's the stairs? Where's the stairs? Where's the stairs?
He doesn't want to talk to me.
I asked if you could say something for the next generation.
I'll tell you what you should say to the next generation. You've got a marvelous country, and for God's sakes, build it so you realize your potential and advance the welfare
What
of the
about helping them rebuild? What about
Would you
Agent
please
Orange?
let me finish?
What about
Would
the
you
live
let me?
mines? There's no responsibility on the part of the United States?
He had finished, all right. Finished dictating the fate of our people over 30 years ago. Now he wants our sympathy.
And we're back. Very interesting encounter that you had with Mr. McNamara.
Oh, yes. I've had quite a few. I met the man, Admiral Zumwalt, who ordered the spraying of Agent Orange to defoliate. In other words, we sprayed toxic poisons to kill the leaves so that we could see the enemy, so that we could bomb them. That it was that kind of a very confusing war. And of course, killing the leaves and defoliating, we were killing the children and people giving birth in that region for generations to come. And the GIs who did the spraying, who wore protective gear, suffered. So you can imagine what it was like for the people of Vietnam. Well, here's Admiral Zumwalt at a bar at the 5-star hotel in Hanoi. And I said, Admiral Zumwalt, what are you doing here? He said, oil and gas, my friend, oil and gas. And he gives me a business card, and he's there to do business. He's there
Some things never change. Oil and gas. Sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Well, the war was also fought over heroin. If you read the politics of heroin in Southeast Asia, Air America was owned by Lady Bird Johnson, a huge stock owner of Air America. Go see the Mel Gibson movie. It goes on and on. But what's so exciting is let's not refight the war again. Let's just see what is it like to win the peace.
Right.
That's what the Vietnamese come to the gorgeous beaches. People are getting married, scuba diving, weddings in Vietnam. And gorgeous, sushi galore. I had fresh uni that I plucked myself with gloves, in some of the lesser-known islands in Vietnam. It's a great place to explore.
And people can find out, let's just mention it again, alltourism.org is the website, and they can go there to find out more information about that.
alltourism.org. Give on holiday. You can go to Vietnam with us. You're very welcome.
And we're going to take a little break, a little ID break, and I want to play a little music clip that you were referring to earlier, the Dumped On. Tell us a little bit about that before we go into that clip.
Well, I wrote this song about my country. I was a little teen in junior high school, and I was going to Thomas Jefferson Junior High School, and the little ditty that we had to learn was Thomas Jefferson Junior High School. Oh, what a school you are. If they put you way in the sky, you'd be the brightest star. Shine on brightly, show us the way. Help us to know what's true. Help us be clever in each endeavor, and we will always love you. Ooh, oh, Thomas Jefferson. Ooh, Teddy Kennedy, Junior High School. I couldn't resist because dear Teddy Kennedy, what a man. But yeah, I went to Thomas Jefferson Junior High School, and there was this ditty, and it was happy. And I thought, this is about my song. My song is a shining star, and it just needs to be seen as that one day, and when what's going on, my country is being dumped on. So I wrote a song about being dumped on, and it played. Rodney Bingenheimer loved it. It went to #1, KROQ. Rodney on the Rock absolutely loved it, and we did a music video.
And this was what year?
Oh, my goodness. Dumped On was Rodney Bingenheimer. We're talking 80s. Mm-hmm. It was before I went back to Vietnam. I went back in 87 and stopped all performance. I became Sister Teresa. I met Mother Teresa in Vietnam. She said, "You must help the poorest of the poorer. Bless you, my child." And since 87 to today, I haven't been performing. So this was probably 86.
Well, let's hear a little bit of the music, and then we'll come back after a promo break.
And the 80s are back, so let's re-record these songs.
I'm Sherry Beal, host and producer of Healthy Planet, Healthy Me, Southern California's exclusive environmental and health radio show here on KPFK. Please join me every Friday from 2 to 3 p.m. for cutting-edge news and information on issues that affect your health and environment. You can also see our show now on YouTube by typing in Sherry Beal. So remember to tune in Friday from 2 to 3 p.m. here on KPFK's Fiercely Independent Radio, and together we'll create a healthy planet, healthy me.
In the heat of the night, seems like a cold sweat creeping across my brow. in the heat of the night. I'm feeling motherless somehow.
And that's the great Ray Charles. They don't make them like that anymore. And that is from the soundtrack of In the Heat of the Night, which was written by Stirling Silliphant, who has a connection to my guest in studio.
Which Quincy Jones scored.
There you go.
We had fabulous people at our dinner parties.
That's right. And that's, by the way, just for our listeners who are just joining us, I wanted to mention that I'm with Tiana Alexandra Silliphant.
Hello.
Filmmaker.
Come to Vietnam with us.
Yes, philanthropist, everything. So continue. Tell us a little bit about, you were talking about Bruce Lee, and we're going to play, we're actually going to play a little film clip. We're going to play a little audio clip from one of your films a little later on.
Oh, Bruce was amazing. He pushed me and pushed me. When I couldn't run anymore, he said, "Then die. Stiffness is vertigo death." And I do the what if, when you study self-defense. And I said, well, what if somebody came behind you with a piano wire, like a karate? And he looked at me contemptuously. You die. So he was very realistic about what we can do, what you can't do. But I was in a martial arts film with Sam Peckinpah. He directed with James Caan and Robert Duvall, and got to work with Duvall. Got to work with Rod Steiger in Catch the Heat, and I played the Asian stereotype. Is that the clip?
Yeah. We're gonna do a little audio clip from Catch
I'm a
the
drug
Heat.
enforcement officer, right? Playing a character to entrap the drug dealer, Rod Steiger.
Okay, let's listen to that.
I bet you miss New York, don't you?
New York? Oh, yeah, someday I go. You from there?
Yeah. And I miss it.
You like some watermelon seed?
I could take that as a racist remark, you know.
Well, what is racist?
Ain't nobody ever called you a chink?
Everybody call me Cinderella.
Yeah, and they call me Snow White.
Try, maybe you like. You just put between the teeth and you bite into the seed like this and you
Look,
crack
will you just forget about them goddamn watermelon seeds, okay?
You don't want to be Cinderella's friend? Okay, you loser, not me.
And there you have it. Things are a little bit different now. Well, maybe.
Well,
I don't know.
it makes me think of dear Michael Jackson. It's his birthday tomorrow. So I invite your listeners, everybody, come to Michael Jackson's house. It's just right there, Sunset, right near Carrollwood and Sunset. Just come, and I'll be there with a camera, with Douglas and a camera. Because, we support global villages in Vietnam, and I see a global village outside the walls and gates right here. People of all incomes and nationalities gathering, surrounding Michael Jackson's home. They bring their children to touch the lawn. And I want to ask people about that and about the power of music and the power of love.
And didn't you go with Lily Hayslip? I just wanted to bring in
Yes. Did you see the film Oliver Stone made? His third film on Vietnam, Heaven and Earth. And her book, When Heaven and Earth Change Places. She's my dearest friend. The two of us been going to Vietnam doing charity work since the 80s. And she has Global Village. So when she went with us on the Star Tour, we took the Star Tour because I live right near Michael Jackson's house and the helicopter's been going. And we thought, what's with the Star Tours? Let's jump on and see who are my neighbors. And she said, like Aaron Spelling's house. 50-bedroom houses, and nobody. We didn't. You don't see anybody. Nobody's playing on the lawn. I'm right near. I'm at a house, David Geffen's house, where once in a while this huge gates open and you see men in golf carts. The gardeners are in golf carts.
And it must be...
It boggles the mind.
I was going to say, all in the same world, and here you're surrounded by
and
this.
We want
then
more,
you go
more.
Yeah.
We want more. We can't get enough. And here in L.A., there's alienation, there's loneliness, and there's drugs, prescription drugs. What's with that? Who are the doctors who are, just indulging people for money to get us hooked on all this. And I think we say stop to all of this. Let's drink natural virgin coconut juice. That's what they drink in Vietnam. It costs nothing. It falls off a tree. Natural virgin coconut juice for health. You know, we're stuck in this body. Let's make it last, and let's love one another and come to Vietnam with us.
Well, and
share the love.
Well, and I was going to say it's just such a stark contrast between the world that you're sort of surrounded with here and have been surrounded with when you go back to Vietnam and see such a completely different world. I mean, it's.
I'm taking Philip Glass. Philip wants to go. The composer, Philip Glass, wants to go. Christopher Hampton and I are taking James Gandolfini. He wants to go. He's married to an Asian woman. But even if you're not married to an Asian woman, you're all welcome. The French, the Dutch, the Australians, the Indians, the Singaporeans, the Europeans have a field day in Vietnam. It's really exciting. It's lots and lots of fun.
And what you mentioned the event that's going to be happening when you go to Vietnam, some of the performance things that you're going to do. Do you is there any kind of little snippet of any theatrical piece that you can kind of do?
Well, yes. September 23rd and 25th, I will be performing at Hanoi Cinematheque. I'll be playing Robert McNamara, maybe a little bit of, I can do John Kerry. But I think the favorite is, of course, Bruce Lee. He was the ultimate. And he was also very, how would you say it? He was a chauvinist. And we remember this was the 70s. He would say, why would I teach a girl? You're a girl. I don't teach girls. At the time, he only had taught Linda, his wife, was the only woman he ever taught. He didn't take, chick students. And I said, but I want to learn to defend myself. I want to be strong, and I'm going to be an actress, and I want to do beautiful moves in films. And he said, you should be at home, and your uncles, your brothers will protect you. And I convinced him. So he was the one who taught me stiffness is vertical depth.
That's right.
And he just believed that you work and work at your craft. You practice and practice. And the spiritual belief that he imparted on me, he taught me a lot about meditation. So I'm going to do a meditation when I perform. Mm-hmm. I'll invite the audience to do a meditation. So let's do that, shall we?
Sure.
We don't have the gong, so we beat the imaginary gong. You're in traffic. You're stressed, right? You're late. The freeway. You shouldn't have taken this freeway. Somebody's honking at you. There is so much stress if we let it in. So you know what? We make time stand still. Bruce Lee taught me, make time stand still, stretch it, get rid of the stress. Even when you're driving, you don't have to close your eyes. Let's take a silent moment, go into yourself. That is where all the power of the universe is inside you. So we'll have a moment's silence, and we will go into a positive light.